You're 8 years old, standing in the hallway in your socks, holding your breath like it's part of the wallpaper. Behind one door, a TV hums too loudly. Behind another, cutlery hits a plate just a bit too hard. You don't know what will happen yet, but your body is already editing itself, shrinking, smoothing, erasing anything that might make a sound. You think you're just being careful. You don't realize you're learning a religion, that safety comes from walking on eggshells around the people you love most. This isn't just a video about difficult families or having strict parents. It's about what happens when your nervous system grows up as the peacekeeper, the emotional airbag, the silent translator of other people's moods. It's about why, decades later, you can still feel that hallway in your body every time someone sighs, goes quiet, or closes a drawer too hard. And it's about how to stop treating every room like it might explode without abandoning the part of you that learned to survive. You weren't fragile. The floor you were given was made of glass. Let's start here. You don't describe your childhood as abusive. You describe it as complicated, tense, fine, as long as you didn't talk back, as long as you kept your grades up, as long as you didn't upset them on a bad day. You became a forecaster of storms. You watched tone like other kids watched cartoons. You counted the seconds between sounds in the next room and learned to read a slammed cupboard like a weather report. You learned how to lower your voice, edit your face, and pre-apologize for things you hadn't even done yet. You learned how to ask for nothing. And now you find yourself apologizing when someone else bumps into you. You replay conversations on loop because you think you sounded off. You pre-edit text messages 10 times to make sure no one can misunderstand you, get annoyed or think you're too much. How do you tell someone what you need when your whole childhood trained you to believe that needs are landmines? How do you relax around people when your nervous system is still doing safety checks on every word, every pause, every tiny change in their face? You might even feel broken for not being able to just let things go. Friends tell you you're overreacting when your whole body is screaming, "No, this is familiar. I've been here before." If any part of this feels uncomfortably accurate, you don't have to prove it to anyone. Just quietly notice it. Maybe even type a single sentence somewhere safe. I grew up walking on eggshells more than I grew up being a child. Let's pull this apart gently. First, you were not born cautious like this. A child's default setting is chaotic honesty. They cry when they're sad, laugh too loud, slam doors, forget things, spill things, ask why. They wobble, they test, they take up space. If you grew up walking on eggshells, it means your chaos kept meeting consequences it couldn't handle. Maybe it was a parent with a quick temper, maybe it was constant criticism or silent treatment, or a caregiver whose mood could turn the house into a minefield without warning. Your brain did what it's designed to do: adapt. Neuroscience shows that our brains don't just remember events, they simulate them, rehearsing future danger based on past pain. Your amygdala, your internal smoke alarm, learned. Raise the volume early, scan everything, over-prepare. That's what walking on eggshells really is. Not drama, not oversensitivity. A finely tuned early warning system in a child who didn't feel safe enough to just exist. Now your body carries that system into adulthood. Your heart races not only when something is wrong, but when something might be wrong. A delayed reply, a short message, a sigh across the room. Your brain is already sprinting ahead, trying to fix a problem that hasn't even introduced itself yet. Pause for a second. Notice how much work your nervous system is doing in the background just to keep you appropriate and low maintenance and easy to be around. There's another layer. When we talk about trauma, we often picture explosions. But a lot of people who grew up like you were never in a house of explosions. They were in a house of subtle shifts, tone changes, eye rolls, cold silences, guilt, shame, emotional unpredictability. The result is something psychologists sometimes call the fawn response. Fight says, "I'll push back." Flight says, "I'll run." Freeze says, "I'll disappear." Fawn says, "I'll shapeshift into whatever keeps you calm." You became a mind reader, a peacekeeper, a therapist to adults who should have been yours. Your kindness, insight, and empathy were survival skills, not personality quirks. That's why compliments feel so confusing. People say, "You're so understanding, you're so mature, you're so good at handling difficult people," and a small, tired part of you thinks, "You have no idea how expensive that has been." Here's the painful twist. The world loves people who grew up on eggshells. Employers love that you over-deliver. Partners love that you accommodate. Friends love that you listen more than you talk. Society quietly rewards the child who learned to keep everyone else comfortable, then calls it being a good person. If you learned to stay small because it kept the adults calm, that was never a personality trait. That was unpaid labor for a system that needed you compliant to keep functioning. You were not too sensitive. You were too alone with everybody else's emotions. Somewhere in the middle of all this, there are so many people like you finding each other. People who grew up monitoring every room they walked into, now slowly building a corner of the internet where they're allowed to actually be in the room, not just regulate it. So how does all of this show up now? Maybe you struggle to make simple decisions. Choosing a meal, a movie, a date plan can feel like lying on your stomach to defuse a bomb. You're not thinking, "What do I want?" You're thinking, "What will cause the least tension? What will make them happiest? What will keep things quiet?" Maybe conflict, even healthy conflict, feels like a siren. Voice raised, heart racing. Someone goes quiet. Panic. You hear the scrape of a chair or the heaviness in a message, and your body jumps straight back into that childhood hallway, waiting for the next impact. You might notice you're drawn to emotionally unpredictable people, not because you like chaos, but because your nervous system is fluent in it. Calm, consistent love can feel suspicious, boring, even unsafe. You're waiting for the turn, because there was always a turn. At work, you might be the person who anticipates everyone else's needs. You fix problems before anyone notices. You smooth tensions, volunteer for the extra tasks, stay late. They call you a team player. They don't see the exhaustion behind your eyes. In relationships, you might hide your anger so deeply you can't even feel it. You turn hurt into self-blame. I'm probably overreacting. Maybe I'm the problem. I should just be more grateful. You minimize your own experience before anyone else has a chance to. And the worst part? You might not even have language for any of this. Just a vague belief that you're too much on the inside and not enough on the outside at the same time. Let's zoom out even further. You were not the only variable in this story. Family systems often unconsciously assign roles. The angry one, the fixer, the golden child, the scapegoat, the invisible one. If you were the eggshell walker, your job was to keep the whole system from cracking. Sometimes culture piles on. Maybe you grew up in a community where obedience was praised, where respect really meant don't upset the adults, where children were expected to swallow their feelings for the sake of family honor, gender roles, or survival. Schools reward the quiet, compliant, high-achieving child. Religious or cultural messages might have told you that self-sacrifice is holy, that anger is wrong, that your job is to be understanding, forgiving, endlessly patient. So you weren't just walking on eggshells around one person. You were walking on eggshells around an entire set of expectations about what it means to be good, loyal, grateful, strong. When you internalize that, of course you blame yourself instead of the environment. Of course you think, if I were different, they'd be happier, instead of, if they were safer, I'd be freer. This is where something important shifts. You can stop treating your patterns like moral failures and start seeing them as logical responses to systems that asked too much of you and gave too little back. So what now? Awareness without tenderness just becomes another form of self-attack. So we start gently. Notice the moments your body still walks on eggshells, even when the floor is stable. The micro-hesitation before you speak, the way you scan a room, the way you rehearse conversations in your head, trying to pre-edit other people's reactions. When you catch it, instead of saying, "Ugh, I'm doing it again, I'm so messed up," try, "Of course I'm doing this. This is what kept me safe, and right now, I'm also safe enough to try something different." You don't have to dismantle a lifetime of hypervigilance all at once. You're just slowly letting your body learn that not every hallway leads to a slammed door. Let's talk about what different can look like in real life. First, name the floor. There is so much power in being able to say clearly, "I grew up walking on eggshells," not to dramatize your past, but to describe it, to upgrade it from a vague fog of "I was probably being sensitive" into a clear map of "No, I was adapting to people who were not emotionally safe." If you feel up to it, you can write a brief timeline, not every detail, just the patterns. When X was stressed, the whole house tensed. When I cried, I got mocked. When I did well, things were calmer. Suddenly, your current perfectionism, people-pleasing, or panic in conflict stops looking like random flaws and starts looking like evidence. Second, begin reparenting your nervous system in tiny, nearly invisible ways. Reparenting is not about pretending you had a perfect childhood. It's about letting an inner adult finally walk into the room and say the things you needed to hear then, in the way you needed to hear them. You can practice this in the smallest daily moments. You notice you're overthinking a message. You pause and ask, "What am I afraid will happen if I say what I really mean?" Then you respond to yourself the way a calm, kind adult would respond to a scared kid. If they get slightly annoyed, we can handle it. That's not the end of the world. You don't have to twist yourself into a knot here. Tiny acts of preference are also reparenting, saying, "Actually, I'd rather have the window seat," or "I'm a bit tired, I'll head home early," are not personality quirks. They're micro-proof to your nervous system that you're allowed to exist without constant backlash. Third, practice safe dependence. You learned independence the hard way by not having someone reliable to depend on emotionally. Healing isn't about doing everything alone, better. It's about slowly learning who is safe to lean on. That might mean choosing one person, a friend, partner, therapist, and experimenting with slightly less edited honesty. Sharing something a bit earlier than you usually would. Admitting, "I'm scared you'll be mad at me for saying this," and letting them respond. Testing whether the floor holds when you put your weight on it. Safe dependence doesn't mean the other person is perfect. It means they're willing to repair, to talk, to own their part, to show you with actions that your emotions are not grenades in their hands. Fourth, teach your body what safety feels like, not just what danger feels like. Hypervigilance is a full-body habit, so the antidote isn't just more thinking, it's new sensations. You can start extremely small. Once a day, sit back in your chair, feel your feet on the ground, and let your eyes land on 3 things that are not threatening: a plant, a mug, light on the wall. Let your shoulders drop by 5%, not 100, just 5. You're not forcing yourself to relax. You're giving your nervous system actual data. Right now, in this moment, nothing bad is happening. We can loosen the eggshell rule for 10 seconds. Fifth, expect relapse and treat it as information, not failure. There will be seasons where it gets louder again. Family holidays, stressful jobs, breakups, illness. Your system will go, "Oh, we know this one," and ramp the scanners back up. You might find yourself over-apologizing, people-pleasing, scanning every message again. Instead of, I'm back at square one, try, ah, my body thinks it's back in that old house. Makes sense? What would help me feel 2% safer right now? Healing from an eggshell childhood isn't a straight line. It's more like walking back and forth over the same hallway, noticing that slowly you flinch a little less at the sounds behind the doors. If this is the kind of thing you find yourself needing to hear more than once, it might be worth keeping this video somewhere you can find it again on the days your chest tightens and you're tempted to blame yourself for it. Come back to that hallway for a moment. Small you, socked feet, holding your breath, listening for the tiniest changes in the air. The house feels like a test you can't afford to fail. Your whole body is curled around one mission. Don't make it worse. Now imagine a future version of you walking into that scene, not to yank you out or tell you to get over it, but to quietly stand beside you. They don't tell you you're imagining things. They don't tell you to be grateful. They just say, you're not crazy. This is a lot for a kid. You shouldn't have to work this hard to feel safe in your own home. Maybe they move the chair. Maybe they take your hand and say, you don't have to listen at the door. When you're bigger, you'll get to live in rooms where you can talk, laugh, cry, and ask questions without calculating the cost. That future you, the one who can feel fear without organizing their entire personality around it, is the person you're slowly becoming each time you choose a tiny act of honesty over automatic self-erasure. They're the one who gets to build a life with fewer eggshells and more solid ground. If you want more stories and language for that kind of life, you're welcome to stick around here. Not because you're broken and need fixing, but because it's easier to learn to trust the floor when you're not doing it alone. From scanning every sound to hearing your own voice, from shrinking your needs to taking up a little more room, from a life of walking on eggshells to a life where your feet finally learn what it means to stand.